So creativity doesn't just come from communion in nature. Creativity isn't reading other people's books or novels or other stuff. Creativity comes from within, and it's using the resources out there to give you an energetic boost, to understand people, to get those creative juices going, the hormones going, because every energy out there is a gift to you. Anyone that gives you their energy in some way, shape, or form is a gift to you. Some people like to cross boundaries and want to give all their energy to you, but you have to put boundaries down and figure out how to use and convert that energy to your benefit. Even though their intentions is not to benefit you, but you're using their information and using their energy to benefit your situation. And so I fucking figured it out. Man is like alien on this earth. When you think about it, man is alien on this earth. Man has no natural enemies. The only enemy man has is actually himself. But actually it's the other people that have very diverse amounts of DNA. And also developing weapons against another man's DNA, forcing the other man to defend himself microbially and then start a war out there. And so the only way for you, so when we have allowed man to proliferate so much as far as procreation, you can call be not a cancer on this earth, or man is right now a cancer on this earth because man has no natural enemies. So how do you get man to curb their reproduction? Well, you want them to reproduce on some level, but you want them to reproduce with prototypes that are extremely well developed, who are extremely intelligent, who have the ability to adapt and assimilate. And you almost have to develop so many different technologies to enhance man's abilities, and then see which prototypes are going to take to the assimilation. But what happens is that when we have procreated so much, trying to enhance humanity to such an extent, well, man doesn't have any enemies. We've stopped. We don't have the giants out there eating us. We don't have dinosaurs out there eating us. We don't really have any enemies. What we have is, because man already knows how to regulate the life out there. We have salt, there's antibiotics, anti-life stuff. We can destroy life like nobody's business. That's what biotech's all about, is antibiotics. Program the immune system to attack anything that you come in contact that is trying to assimilate you, and then also the antibiotics try to destroy life within you. So actually man is what uses man to regulate and control man's reproduction. And it's through the therapies industry. So then also too, developing an enemy. You realize that people didn't want to really save people from the J juice. They were looking for an enemy. If they really wanted to save people, they would understand where I was coming from and follow the information and understand that we were going a specific direction and people were getting benefit from it. Yeah, they had to go through the fire, but if people really wanted to save people, they would understand the information. But that was not the intention back in 2018. 2018 was looking for an enemy to unite people, to make them feel like they have some kind of connection with other humans. And so Jilly Juice was the enemy. It happens in wars. The different countries that each country has created propaganda against then created an enemy, and that enemy was passed down from generation to generation. The propaganda around a person, place, or thing, or a microbe. And so when you develop therapies or defense weapons against an enemy that has been passed down from generation to generation, that's how man is able to control man's reproduction. It's not always through Planned Parenthood or family planning or whatever else people are doing to control reproduction. It's also through the wars, whether it's the wars out there fighting with one country against another or the microbial wars, developing technology to protect you, which means attacking parts of your DNA holding specific algorithms. It's almost like a microbial genocide. And so what is COVID-19? It's a type of virus that came from an antibiotic that was so aggressive, and it also linked itself with other antibiotics, developing the viruses that created the symptoms. Because every virus, all viruses are just the body's defenses against whatever it is attacking it. And so what is an adenovirus and HIV or any of these, they were developed by using specific elements in the food supply and elements out there in your environment as a way to control the life. Attack T cells, attack B cells, protect from some kind of viral assimilation. And so then when you think about viruses, they are platforms of information, yes, because it came from the host. Viruses cannot operate without a host. And so viruses have to be attached to some kind of protein that it can commandeer and then control how it replicates, and the programming of that virus is based upon the intention of that program of the virus. So you have your body that is allowed to develop a certain way because certain viruses, microphages and macrophages or whatever, allow things to grow and also stop things from growing. And so that's why the therapies market is used so prolifically when someone has cancer, because you can commandeer and program a virus to stop the growth by attacking that specific protein algorithm that is replicating very quickly. And on the other hand, there's a virus that would suppress those T cells and B cells, those T cell receptors, and to allow the growth. And so you can also do the opposite of a therapy against a cancer by allowing something to grow. And that's the whole positive and negative. Because the food supply is what gives you the fatty acid, the amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. And then you're also run by different viruses who allow you to express or suppress whatever it's programmed to do. Okay, so you're programmed by the viruses, the parasites, the protozoa, the proteins, the fungus, and bacteria. And when you're developing an antibiotic against any of those things, they also develop their own defenses against whatever is trying to attack it. So that's why people are full of the B cells and T cells. That's why people have certain blood types. That's why people suffer cancer, disease, and chronic illness and or have adverse reactions to a new virus in the environment. And when they hold so many predispositions, and they also use certain therapies that are very aggressive or targeting a specific thing, it wakes up things that were asleep. And so some people get reactions from all the different therapies that are out there, regardless of what they are, because therapy is about trying to stop something from growing or encourage something to grow. And it could be a byproduct or a side effect of something that was trying to stop something to grow. So there's so many chain reactions to all the therapies out there. And so when people are trying to save each other, from the virus, from a parasite, from the protozoa, protein, fungus, and bacteria, they're not actually saving each other, because then what they do is they don't really do anything to help themselves, and they tell someone else, do or don't do whatever. And then the other person that's receiving that information of do or don't do, they do or don't do whatever, but they still hold the predispositions, do nothing at all to change whatever's going on. They're just not doing or doing something that someone told them to not do or do based upon the storyline, how it was characterized, and then they go tell somebody else. And that's called going viral. When something goes viral, somebody is sharing their personal protection storyline, whether it's genetic or it's some kind of verbal type of communication. And that's why things go viral on the internet. That's why this pandemic has gone viral, because people are sharing their microbes and they're converting their microbes into a unique identifier to somebody else who converts it to their own unique identifier. And so what used to be something that it was just personal to you and your personal protection and it was your own unique identifiers and your DNA, and now you have some kind of infection and now you're hanging out with people or people are in your presence and you're releasing all of your unique identifiers, they're catching it, having to convert it and protect themselves from you. And this is where the chain reaction of one unique identifier that gets converted into another one and then another one. And then this is how people are passing these different microbes that are now unique once it left your body, and then you get it back again, but in a different form. And so then everyone's personal protection is not really personal anymore. No different than when the trolls are out there trying to correct me or trying to save me from myself or save others from me, but they haven't even saved themselves. They don't even know what saving themselves mean. And so then I realized, come here, sugar. The Walking Dead and the Hunger Games, that was all based upon what is going on right now. Because the saviors were these deadly protectors. That Negan, who is the lead savior, played his part as the deadly savior protector of everyone in that show in The Walking Dead, to where the main cast, the good guys, were trying to protect themselves from the saviors who were trying to protect them from who knows what the hell. But the protection was deadly. Negan was deadly. He was chopping people's heads off. He was clubbing people to death. He was hunting people. That's what these saviors do out there. They hunt for people. They target people. And so then when you don't buy into their methods of saving you or saving other people, then people turn into Satan. That's where the allegory of Savior and Satan come from. Is that you have so many people out there that are trying to save people through the Bible, save people with the different therapeutics, save people even with the chili juice. Okay, and then instead of just saving yourself and giving people information without ramming it down their throats, then when you don't follow their lead or you do completely opposite of what they're doing, then they turn into Satan. And that's where all the crazy medieval shit came from, is when you didn't follow the church or you didn't follow, the way that things were done in the 15, 16, 1700s, then people went medieval on each other. Well, we need to evolve from, right now we're going medieval on each other virtually. We're not supposed to be enacting what they did back in the 17, 16, 1500s in England in the Tower. But people are doing that virtually. They are trying to destroy people's spirits and hunting them through the internet, targeting them, and claiming they are saving people from you. They are claiming they are saving you from you. And then you realize that the saviors aren't really saving anyone. They haven't even saved themselves. And their protection is actually deadly. And then you look at it from a bigger picture, from the biotech point of view, all the methods of saving people from this virus is not saving them. Because guess what? People are still dying. And some of them have the therapies that you said that we're supposed to save. Oh, but wait, they're not. It's not the right therapy. They got it wrong. The FDA approved it the wrong way. They should have approved my company. We have the answer. Until that gets recalled, because antibiotic resistance happens when you're trying to protect someone from the environment, not allow them to assimilate and merge with the environment and evolve and adapt. No, you're trying to protect. You're trying to resist the environment. Resistance is futile. Have you not learned that resistance is futile? When you're being overwhelmed by an enormous entity, you either succumb to that enemy because you're overwhelmed, or you run the fuck away, or you find ways to transition with that enemy slowly. And they're not really the enemy, they're just an influential presence that also must find a way to assimilate. But remember, the largest prototype, the strongest prototype, is going to kick everybody's asses. It's not really about hormonally strong. Yeah, it is for a minute. But, the larger you are, the harder you fall. I mean, just look at the stars that were walking on air, many years ago, and then they fell from grace. Or they had to commit, professional suicide by doing stupid shit. And maybe they were instructed to do that because their contract ran out. Sony was not going to support them anymore, and they were done with the movies. And so how did your contract tell you to gracefully leave the stage? Well, you commit professional suicide. You go hit Chris Rock in front of everybody on the Oscars. And I'm using that as an example because I think Will Smith is smarter than that. He's not as dumb as people claim he is. There's so many ways to leave specific things out there if that is the intention. So anyways, I went off on a total tangent. But we have a lot of saviors out there, and the savior protectors of our society are not protecting you. If you can't protect yourself, what the fuck do you think somebody else is going to do for you? My husband isn't here all the time, but I know how to protect myself. I have my own personal protection. Okay? And so I can't assume that my husband's going to save me from anything. I have to learn how to save myself. I have to learn how to use common sense, not walk around after midnight, not go to the grocery store after a certain time in a weird area. There's things that you got to do to protect yourself. And so the medical holistic industry, I got kind of chills from that. Wow. The medical holistic industry is all about saving people. But look where you end up. You end up in the morgue. You end up in palliative care. You end up in hospice. So what are they exactly protecting you from? Oh, they're prolonging your life. What the hell does that mean? Do you even know when someone's supposed to pass away? So when you get a disease, whatever it is, do you know how fast that disease is going to replicate? Well, yeah, if you do nothing, it'll eat you alive. You take an antibiotic, you might give you a little stay of execution, but then relative to how your body responds to all the different therapies will be whether or not the perception of you prolonging your life from the diagnosis, you think you won because you're not dead by the time they told you would have died if you hadn't done something. You see what I'm saying? There's so many perceptions of protection and prolonging someone's life and some people get the same personal protection and their life is cut short. How is that? Oh, that's right. There's that percentage of efficacy. And then there's a percentage of those that don't take to the therapy. And you won't know which one you're going to fall under. So then it's like Hail Mary, Russian roulette. Oh, I don't like playing Russian roulette with anything. And so then you realize there has to be something universal out there that everyone can do and understand. And that, it's called eating. It's called understanding salt water, do a few recalibrations. Then you got to deal with all the shit that you've kept inside because of all the therapies. Oh, it's hot. I got to go turn the AC back on because it's hot up here. But that's the thing is man has no natural enemies. The only enemy is himself. And then using the environment to weaponize against people's bodies, whether it's an antibiotic, like, something aggressive like chemotherapy and radiation, or taking a virus, which is somebody's defense system against something, and using it as a therapy against some kind of similar algorithm, which where the body has to create T cells and B cells. And they may already have so many of them because they're type A and type B. They have already so much surface marker antigen. And so you think they can afford to take on more T cells and B cells? When so many people out there are spewing out their defense systems with everybody, causing people's immune systems to trigger and develop more proteins that they probably can't afford to take on or even hold inside. People don't think about that. They only know one biased point of view because they bought into the marketing, into the business, the greed of hitting it rich with all these different biotechnical companies, no different than crypto. You're just gambling. And when someone's always shorting the stock, I figured that out when I invested into certain, biotech companies. I think it went up to 20 or 30 bucks, and I probably should have sold all my shares at that time. But no, I was like, I was holding out for 100. That's what gambling is you're willing to use your whole life savings in hopes that maybe in 5 years, the stock will go to 200. And that's when you'll sell. But in the meantime, you're just draining your savings account, hoping to hit it big, and someone's always shorting the stock. So every time it goes up to a certain amount of time, and then people are like, oh yeah, I made all this money, and then they sell and everything's great, but some people hold on to it, and then the stock drops. Someone shorted the fucking stock, so it dropped to now, instead of 30 bucks a share, now it's down to $5 a share. And everyone's going, oh yeah, buy low, buy low, buy low. And so all the people who are desperate to go make some money are draining their savings, draining their whole freaking paychecks, and gambling because they think this biotechnical company or this cryptocurrency is going to hit it big. That's the same thing as the personal protection. If I get this, it means I'm not going to die from this virus. And so, yeah, when you think about it, they named it COVID-19 because the original thing that jump-started it caused an aggressive reaction in people. And then all the different other viruses in people, all the different antigen that people were holding inside, they all linked together, and then you have the different symptoms that were unique to COVID. I mean, this ain't the regular flu. How come this didn't seem like the flu? Why did I get so many chills and hives and everything else? Because so many things were waking up in people's immune systems. And that was circulating within the environment. And so you weren't just getting the COVID from people. You were getting everything they ever had inside of them that was under some kind of therapy or some kind of antibiotic. And now it woke up, and now it started replicating, and then it's being projected out there in the atmosphere. And so then you're getting a whole host of symptoms that you wouldn't ordinarily be exposed to, but since this, whatever jump-started this, was so aggressive that everyone was throwing up everything, all of their blood types, coming up, all of the antigen, all the antibodies they're holding inside, it all came out in their mucus. And then people were exchanging mucus microbes with each other. And so then you had different versions of the COVID. You had the Delta, the Omicron. Okay. I'm all for personal protection. Hey, that's fine. But it ain't personal. When you get a personal protection, whether it's a therapy or whatnot, and then now you're out hanging out with a bunch of people, mixing your shit in, people aren't like staying home when they cough. Some people sneeze and cough just because it's a natural reaction when they're around something new. And then guess what? There is the streamline of DNA mixing in with all the people hanging out together. And so, yeah, and so you think about it, yeah, man doesn't have any natural enemies. The only enemy is himself. And then when man has to curb man's reproduction and procreation, they have to find different ways to do it. And it's extremely strategic. I mean, the Department of Defense, Biotech, the RAND Corporation, all the different think tanks out there, they understand that there must be a balance of life and death, but we cannot have what happened back in 1940s. We can't do that again. That was really aggressive. We can't have what happened in the Cultural Revolution. We can't have, I mean, so how do you do it? Well, you develop something that is so aggressive that people will have a reaction to. Something that's so new and so spliced and so diced. Because there's nothing organic when you think about it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't really even speculate how this all happened. But it just seems so coincidental that we end the occupation of Afghanistan and this COVID-19 came around. And then we had all the riots. We had the George Floyd stuff. And we had the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but we live in a gematrian society. It's all gematria. It's all numbers. It's all alphanumeric codes. It's all the programming, the transition, the rise and fall of simulations, civilizations. And when society needs to advance because we have exhausted all of the resources, people aren't really, we've gotten what we needed from our society. Now kids and some humans are being groomed for certain things in our society for certain reasons. And do we even know the backstory behind these humans that are being groomed, that are being put out there in the public for public consumption, representing aerospace, representing the young girl that's going to go live on Mars? I had a question about that. Is there going to be a reality show with her being on Mars, living on Mars? What's her name? Alyssa Carson? Is she going to transmit back from her space station in Mars to show us that she's still alive? Or will she just disappear? And they'll just say, oh yeah, we heard about Alyssa, and who knows what Hollywood will develop. You know, and then they're going to get other young kids to go and want to go into the aerospace program and go live in some space station somewhere way out there in the outermost sphere, the atmosphere, the concentric circles, of which I'm sure the flat earth people will be like, oh, wow. When I talked about the concentric circles and the outermost sphere, atmosphere, the outermost circle is the edge of the last, past the stratosphere, past the ionosphere, wherever the space station or whatever is orbiting the Earth. So anything beyond where we have our satellites orbiting, would they be able to transmit back? Will Alyssa Carson transmit back from Mars? How many other kids are going to go and do the same thing she's doing? How many other people are going to volunteer to go live somewhere in different planets? Are they going to transmit back and show like a reality show that they're hanging out, planting flowers? Okay. So I question almost every single pundit out there. I question every single icon, every single influencer out there that's getting people to do things that are off this earth or using therapies. I know I have to assimilate to all the different microbes and people's defense systems releasing all over me. And I will, and I'll become smarter and smarter because I become stronger and stronger. Every single time you get hit by a new virus, if you're not responding to it correctly, you'll get dumber and dumber and you will deplete. If you respond to these different defense systems that are commandeering or trying to commandeer your body, if you're able to assimilate to them and you have a strong defense right here, you'll get stronger and stronger. Because you're taking on intelligence, you're taking on information, you're not resisting it. You don't have a program inside trying to attack that intelligence. But that's what people are doing with the therapies. They're taking certain things that are programmed to attack that intelligence, and they call that protection. And in the meantime, their immune system is triggering B cells and T cells excessively. And every single time they get in contact with someone who triggers those algorithms, those B cells and T cells multiply and multiply. And then guess what happens with people who get dementia? It's the vast amount of B cells and T cells. When people get lymphoma or sepsis or every other disease, it's from the excessive amount of T cells that we're developing because they were exposed to something they can't get away from unless they stay home, more than not. But you know what they're saying? If you can't come out in public unless you have some kind of therapy. And so people do, they go get the therapy and then they go out in public and hang out, and then they are triggering their immune system left and right. And they wonder why they're testing negative for something, but they have some kind of crazy rash and disease and they don't know where it's from. Oh, it's probably from the T cells and B cells waking up everything else in the body. But no one thinks of that in the savior world, the medical, holistic, influencer savior world. Because they're so one fucking dimensional, so fucking biased, and they're making a shit ton of money off of playing those specific parts. Looking for the enemy. I'm the savior. I'm going to look for the enemy. Oh, here, you're the enemy. The virus is the enemy. Jillian's the enemy. Biden's the enemy. Trump's the enemy. Salt's the enemy. Sugar's the enemy. Food's the enemy. Oh, hell, people can name... You can name it, it will be an enemy to somebody. Water's the enemy. Shit, the air's the enemy. Oh my God. GMO's the enemy. Anyway, so yeah, man does not have an enemy except for himself. Man develops his own enemies because he doesn't understand the world that he lives in. He listens to too many people using and exploiting him, and then parading and teasing them with the carrot. Oh, if you do this, you're going to get a lot of money. The carrot and stick method. And then they toss you a few coins to keep you, all like, ooh, okay. Just like when you go to a casino, you win a few times, you're hooked now. Because now the next time, even though you lost a bunch of money, the next time you're going to hit it big. The next time. It's just the next time. The next time I'll be saved. The next time I'll hit it big. The next time I'm going to get rich. Oh my God. And so when all those next times turn into, well, you're bankrupt. And when you're dead, you're bankrupt. When you've given all your money to biotech, given all your money to these influencers because you love their information, and they have Patreon accounts, and they have all their GoFundMes and their Cash Apps and all their fucking use vehicle or financial vehicles so you can pay them for entertaining you. When you're all depleted of body, mind, and spirit, what else do you have left for you? Oh, you don't. You're not around anymore, or you're bankrupt. And so that's what happens with those that are looking for somebody else to protect them. They go fucking bankrupt. Take care. Bye.